Good evening, everyone, and welcome all learners from Emeritus and Eruditus. We are here for our guest lecture series by Career Services. I'm Shivam, and I'll be moderating this session today. Today, we have with us Ratnakar Pandey. He's the lead ML and Analytics for Amazon Customer Services India, and our topic for today is Analytics in E-commerce. Now, if you have questions during the session, please type them into the Q&A box, and I'll bring them up during our Q&A round. It gives me pleasure to introduce Ratnakar to all of you. Ratnakar is currently leading the ML and Analytics division for Amazon Customer Services India. He has more than 20 plus years of experience in analytics and data science fields. Before joining Amazon, he has been part of the data science leadership team in Cabbage, Citigroup, Target, Texas Instruments, and few startups in India. He has an MBA from ISB Hyderabad, MS from University of Arkansas, and BTech from HBDI Kanpur. His focus areas include NLP, NLU, automatic speech recognition, vernacular products development, bots optimization, BI and analytics, visualization, and others. He has received several awards, accolades throughout his career. He has received Analytics 100 Award by Analytics India Magazine, Leader in Action by Citigroup, Outstanding Revenue Impact by Citigroup, Project Excellence Award by Citigroup, Annual Leadership Award by Target, and Excellence Award by Texas Instruments. I hope everyone is as excited as I am. Welcome, Ratnakar, and over to you.
Thank you, Shivam. Folks, can you all confirm whether you can hear me loud and clear? If you can just let me know on the chat window. Okay. Great. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity, folks, for me to be having a word with you. I know you have all gone through many different courses, so I'm not going to talk about anything theoretical or anything of that nature. We'll keep it very light. We'll keep it very oriented towards what we do in the e-commerce, right? And I'm not going to use anything which is Amazon specific or Amazon proprietary. So I'll be using all the publicly available information that we have. But yet you will get a very good glimpse of what we do over there, right? What are some of the areas where we are involved in. But before I go and do that, let me just start to share my screen and share some links with you as well. In case if you'd like to connect with me for offline questions, feel free to do so. So I'm just going to share my LinkedIn profile. I think Shivam has done a fantastic job in sort of giving a view of what I've done so far in my career. But happy to take any questions offline as well, right? If you think I can help you with something. So this is my LinkedIn profile. I also have a blog. I'm not very regular in updating it, but that is there for you to take a look at. I mean, some of the machine learning and Python related things are there. And again, same thing as my blog. I have not been very active in the Quora, but I do have a page where I actually try to answer, some of the usual questions that people have about the career in machine learning, AI, data science, and some of the things that you should be aware of. So I do hope that between these three links, you'll find something useful which I'm not able to cover during this discussion, right? So with that background, like Shivam mentioned, I've been working with Amazon for last 2 years now. And, the work that I do in the company is for the customer service team, particularly for the India customer service team. And because we're looking at the customer service, by very nature, we're looking at the customer data, right? So when they call in, or when they write an email, or when they are interacting with the bot, either the chat bot or the voice bot, those are the sort of things that we actually look into and do a variety of different analytics, right? So, but I'll keep it very generic at the very beginning, and then hopefully, once you have a good context, then I'll take you down to some of the specific things that we will be looking at, right? So I will try to cover 3 different pieces today, folks. One is this article which I found on the web. I will share this link with you later on. And then I will also talk about a video that you can find on YouTube, which is by Rajiv Rastogi, who's a director for machine learning in Amazon. He gives you a good perspective of what are the different areas where we are using machine learning within Amazon India, right? So I'll fast forward to some of the specific segments there and give you a glimpse of what we are doing in that area, right? And the last one I'm gonna share with you is the Amazon.science website. Again, this is a publicly available website. It talks about variety of different things within Amazon, right? So depending on your interest, for example, you can go into any of these areas and you can see what are some of the things that you're working on. There will be research papers that you can go through. But I wouldn't necessarily go in any of these articles as of now, because each of these articles are very, very deep and they require a separate conversation altogether, right? So that's the flow. But is there any question, thoughts from anyone, anything you would like for me to cover in this discussion? And I believe we have 1 hour, and so I will pace accordingly. And you can stop me in between, at least send your questions, and Shivam and others can moderate, and I'll be more than happy to take up your question. Any specific ask, folks, from you before I move on? How many of you are already familiar with some of the analytics that we do in LinkedIn? Let me begin with that question. Not LinkedIn, in e-commerce. Okay. None of it. Okay. Not familiar. All right. Okay. So most of the people, if I get the idea, are not very familiar what are the sort of things that we do in the e-commerce, right? And some of you also asked me questions about the fintech, right? So that's right. I mean, I do have long career in the fintech as well. In fact, that's been the bulk of my career in the financial services and the fintech. So I can answer any questions that you have over there. But let me just begin with where do we use the? Yeah. Okay. Sure. I get the idea, right? So where do we use the machine learning in the analytics world? So what I'm going to do is I will try to write something on the screen as well. And if you could just confirm whether you can see it, so that I know, yeah, we are good to go. Just give me a second. Okay, so I'm just going to try to write something on the screen. So I hope this is readable by all of you. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. So I'll just, and I will share this document with you so you can definitely leverage later on. But I found this to be very, very pertinent in terms of, variety of different analytics that we do, right? First of all, what do you think is the size of e-commerce industry worldwide? Is it in billions of dollars, trillions of dollars? What do you think is the size of the e-commerce that you're looking at? Any ideas? Yeah, that's correct. It is really huge, really very, very big. So it's you can imagine, because somebody asked me a question about the fintech, you can imagine that half of the credit card transactions which happen in India happen only on the e-commerce portal, right? So this is the size of the industry that we're looking at. You're looking at billions of dollars of transactions which happen on credit card in India, and almost half of them are only on the e-commerce sites, right? So only on the where the plastic is not present and people are swiping their card on the internet, right? So it's really big. So when you're looking at that sort of scale and that sort of size, you really cannot do things manually. I mean, even if you're a very, very small player, you still cannot manage things manually. So you have to be looking at how do we really build the scalable solution? How do we really do things in a more automated fashion, right? So few things which really stands out in the world of e-commerce, and for that matter, any big entity that we have, you have to think about things which are scalable, right? If you're thinking about, I'm going to build a logistic regression model which is going to work just for this, sorry, my bad. If I'm just going to build a logistic regression model which works only for one segment and all of that, that's not going to be an ideal solution for us, right? So how do we think in the scalable fashion, and how do we automate more and more number of things, right? So these are the two essential items that you're looking at in terms of any machine learning solutions that you're looking at. It should be scalable, and it should be really big in terms of the coverage. And of course, I mean, all the things that are associated with this. I mean, you should have the necessary precision in terms of a classification model or the recall, depending on the use cases where we are looking at. So all of those things are given, right? And you have to think about how we can do things in an automated fashion, right? So those are the crux of the things which actually decides the right solution for us, right? And the third thing, which is sort of like being covered over there, is how do you separate the good from the bad, right? So, I mean, you may have good intentions to do good things for the customers, but not all customers are coming in with the good intentions. I mean, so you have some bad actors as well. So how do you really create that separation so that the good customers are getting the best possible treatment from us, as well as the bad players are also getting weeded out in the scheme of things? That basically sort of like decides the overall crux of things, right? So I'm going to talk about the specific analytics that we do, and we will begin right from the fundamentals, right? So the sales of the global e-commerce, as you correctly pointed out, is in trillions of dollars. So it's $4.88 trillion, right? So we are looking at, I think, $3 trillion economy for India by 2025. So you can imagine that the GDP of India is still going to be lower compared to the worldwide e-commerce sales, and this is projected to grow significantly higher, right? In fact, India is supposed to be the number 2 market in e-commerce by 2025 after China, and it's not going to be the US, right? So you can imagine the sort of scale that you're looking at. So the AI is pretty much in all the areas that you can imagine, right? So it is there in sales, marketing, inventory management, everywhere you can imagine you will find the AI. And AI is like the broader term for analytics, data science, machine learning, deep learning, regular expressions, all of them combined together. So people use AI as a more broad umbrella term. So it's there in pretty much every area that you're looking at, right? So I'm going to begin with some of the specific things. Pricing optimization, right? One of the main reasons, why people come to the e-commerce platform is the favorable pricing, right? When you can find the same product in Reliance, you can find the product in Chroma. Why is it that you go to Amazon or some other providers out there? Because you do believe that you will find attractive pricing on the product, right? And not only that, if you buy things during the sales time, whether it's a Diwali peak or Republic Day or 15th August and things of that nature, you get additional cash back on your credit cards and so on and so forth, right? So it makes it very, very attractive proposition for you to be looking at the pricing, right? But the pricing itself is, very, very difficult area for us to do manually. So there are a lot of algorithms which actually look into what should be the right price point for a product, how the competitors' pricing is, and so on and so forth. And you can see, even if you are fractionally off from what is the right price for the customer, your sales will dip, right? So that's where basically one of the big, activity is in terms of really figuring out what should be the right price point for a product and how we are in terms of the customer. And also the supply and demand, right? So some of the pricing may be dynamic. Depending on the demand that you're looking at, the price will be different for high demand versus the low demand, right? And you would have seen this happening by yourself, that the price is not constant throughout the year, right? So there are many, many things which get sort of like accounted for there, right? The second thing which happens in terms of the overall AI umbrella is what we call as the STP in the marketing lingo, which is segmentation, targeting, and positioning, right? So you have to understand what are the different segments in the market that you're looking at, right? So for example, let's say you're looking at four-wheelers, right? Four-wheelers cars, for example. So you will see there is a small entry-level car like in Maruti, Suzuki Alto, right? There is a sedan, there is an SUV, there is a luxury car, and so on and so forth. So there are many, many different segments, and the needs and wants of those segments are different as well. The same thing happens in the e-commerce as well, that not everybody is alike, right? Some people are price sensitive. Some people are agnostic to the price. They are actually looking for those rare products which they don't find in any other place out there, right? So all of those things are basically what goes into the segmentation. And then you need to really figure out what are the target, from those segments, who do we target and how do we position our product, right? Position meaning what should be the right marketing strategy to go and talk to those customers and make them, hear to your pitch and buy the product from you. So that's another big focus area that we have in terms of the e-commerce that we use, right? And of course, shoppers use natural language, so that's where the NLP really comes in many, many different areas, right? I'm just going to talk about the broad level things, and then we'll give you some specific examples when I scroll through the video as well, right? Search results optimization. So when you type certain things on Google or any other search engine, you're pointed towards a particular product on Amazon, for example, right? So that's where you'll see a lot of effort goes in terms of figuring out what should we really pop up, right? Not only that, when you come to Amazon also, and you type certain, let's say you're looking at, now they're actually advertising also that you can type in Hindi or local regional languages as well, and you'll still find it. But a lot of times people misspell things, right? Instead of saying TABLE, or you write something else, right? So TABAL or something of that nature, right? Or you may just jumble up the word or may not know the entire word. It will autofill those things for you. So all of those is something which basically happens using the machine learning as well. And there are many different algorithms that actually do that, right? Product recommendation. This is one very common area, and this happens not only on e-commerce platform but on social media platform as well, like LinkedIn. People who viewed this profile also viewed these profiles, or people who are connected to this are also connected to this, right? So they will make the recommendations in terms of what should you do next, or making the recommendation for you. Same thing happens in the e-commerce. People who buy this product also buys this, right? Or frequently bought together, right? Things of that nature are nothing but the product recommendations, which basically address two areas which typically are addressed by the marketing staff, or not the marketing, but the sales staff: upselling and cross-selling, right? Upselling is when you wanted to buy a product for $20, but we were able to actually sell you a product for $50, right? Give you a better product. That's the upselling. Cross-selling is when you came in to buy the phone. We were able to give you a phone cover and a screen guard and the added warranty. Those are basically the cross-selling. So what should go with what product? It's not necessarily very straightforward in most of the times, right? So for example, you may say, okay, a mobile, it's not really a rocket science that you need a mobile cover also, right? But there are product bundling or product combinations which are not intuitive. So I didn't try it in the recent time, but in one of my previous sessions, I was shook. In terms of you needing to iron your clothes, they are not connected at all, but they are frequently bought together because chances are very good that people are setting up their new household, or they're trying to gift others, and so on and so forth, right? So that's where the ML algorithms really come in, and these are nothing but your recommendation engines, right? Prediction about your customers, like what are they gonna do next, which sites they are visiting, all of that, right? And related to that is the customer lifetime value, right? So this is a very important concept, which is called as the CLTV, customer lifetime value. So how do I really know whether then the customer lifetime value is not necessarily the actual customer's lifetime, but their engagement with your marketplace, with your platform, right? So if you say, okay, for me, my average customer stays with me for 10 years, and each year they will buy for $1,000, and minus all the costs and everything. So basically $1,000 is my margin that we're looking at. So times 10 years is $10,000 that you're going to make on that customer, right? That's the concept of CLTV, and it's, easily said, but very difficult to define. And depending on the CLTV of the customer, you may have a different strategy in terms of the retaining of the customer and what sort of products and offers and services you give to them, right? Predicting customer return and purchases, right? Very important area. So more important than the purchases, returns is very important, right? And on what ground people may return that, right? So let's say, it happened earlier on. So let's say you go to Amazon and you're looking for the TV, and you put Samsung TV, right? And if you're not careful, you will also see, sometimes monitors are getting confused with the TV, right? People were not necessarily aware of the difference between computer monitor versus a TV, they may say, okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, 18-inch TV is there, I can buy that, right? I mean, they will buy because it's a lower price point and all of that. But we know that that's a wrong purchase, right? Because you came in for TV, but you somehow managed to go to the monitor. So we need to really give you that warning that, by the way, this is a monitor, not a TV, right? And things of that nature that we actually highlight to really make sure that people are aware of that. And not just that, I mean, we also make prediction in terms of the customer profile, whether they are likely to return that product for whatever reasons. And there is more proactive strategies to really address that. So I think a couple of people have raised hands. You want to ask your questions now? 3 people have raised their hands. No, I cannot share any financial numbers. That is just, not possible. But anything else, I mean, I'll be more than happy to address your questions. Market basket analysis is correct, Chandan. We also call it the recommendation engine, and there are more complex algorithms like the collaborative filtering, like the Netflix uses, right? So when you go to Netflix, for example, you have never watched any movie or any show with them, but based on the profile that you fill in. So for example, you say, I am a 26-year-old man living in Bangalore, right? I mean, whatever criteria they collect. So based on that, they'll say, okay, who are the other 26-year-old people who are living in Bangalore and who are similar in profile? And then they will look into their watching pattern, and they will collect both explicit and implicit data on what shows, what movies, what podcast they like. And based on that, they will make a recommendation for you. So there are many, many different ways of addressing that. People who have raised hand, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. I'm okay with that.
Sure, Ratnakar, I'll give them the access.
Yeah.
Hi, Anshuman, you can unmute yourself now. All right, I'll give the access to someone else now.
Okay, sure enough. Or maybe they accidentally raised their hands. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'll answer the question that Jaydev has asked. What is churn prediction? Does anyone know what is churn prediction? Okay, so churn prediction is people or the customers who are likely to attrite, right? So a lot of, and this ties very closely with the customer lifetime value, right? So you may think about, like, if I'm a very high value customer for a company and I'm also more likely to attrite. And how do we know who are the people more likely to attrite? I mean, of course, we have the historical data on people who have attrited and so on and so forth, right? Attrited meaning they have left the platform, or they have reduced their purchase, or they have reduced their number of visits, right? There are a variety of different ways you can define the attrition. So attrition is not necessarily like you permanently close your Amazon Prime subscription and so on and so forth. I mean, of course, that's one form of attrition, but what we call as a silent attrition or downward trend, all of those things are covered in, right? So we try to sort of like, mitigate that and see whether we can do something about the customer in terms of the proactive retention strategy, right? So customer churn is that to really figure out, who are the customers who are going to attrite. Not so much in e-commerce, but when I was working in the credit card portfolio in Citigroup, this was a huge focus area for us, right? Because credit cards, it's very, very expensive to acquire a customer, right? And when you acquire a customer, you have to really ensure that you keep them engaged in the portfolio, right? And if for whatever reasons they're not engaged, you would like to understand what can you do to really get them back to their earlier level of engagement, whether that means lowering their interest rate, giving them a voucher, right? Or waiving off a certain fee, a variety of different things that you could do, right? So based on levels that you can control. So I'll continue in terms of what are the other areas. Site search autocomplete, which I have already spoken about in terms of the addresses, and I'll give you some examples there as well in the video. A/B testing using AI. Does anyone know what is A/B testing? Have you heard this? No? Okay. Yeah, A/B testing is doing the live experimentation, right? So Yeah, correct. So, experimentation is the way to learn about certain things which are not done in the past. I mean, if something is done in the past, you of course have the live data, historical data that you can analyze. But if you don't have that data and you want to test certain things, then you have to go with the A/B testing, right? Um, for creating a simple solution, let's say you want to paint your wall in your bedroom, right? You don't know what color will look good on the wall. So you say, okay, let me try this, light color or grayish color, right? And I'm gonna try, some other shade. And you put both side by side on the wall and see, what makes sense to you, right? The same thing applies in the live products and how we lay out the site. Whether we say 50% off or buy one and get one, they're literally the same thing, 50% off or buy one or get one. But you'll see the customer response, customer behavior is different depending on what you're actually offering. Some people like a certain layout, the hamburger menu on the top versus hamburger menu on the bottom, right? Different workflows that you're looking at. So we really couldn't know all these things ahead of time. So that's why we have to do the A/B testing. And, there are a lot of tools within Python, R, and other languages which help you design those tests, run the test for a certain period of time, make sure that you're selecting a statistically relevant cohort for comparison, and then analyzing and then interpreting the results. All of that is also something which we heavily use. Chatbots for automated customer support, as I told you earlier. Imagine the sort of scale that Amazon is right now, and imagine it's gonna be 10-fold higher. So does it mean that I'm gonna hire 10-fold more customer service associates? That's one way of doing that. But I mean, of course, you're gonna have a huge cost overlay in terms of doing that, right? So that's why we figure out ways to how can we automate certain things using chatbots, right? So I mean, when you go to Amazon and you say, okay, you go to your order page, for example, right? And you say, I'm having some doubts about this product, so you want to contact a customer care. The first thing that you actually interact with is a bot, right? Which will be, taking, are you talking about this, right? Is your issue covered by these themes, right? So on and so forth, right? So you will see that is where, I mean, we try to preempt some of these questions or preempt some of these contexts. But if the customer is still not satisfied, then we can definitely put them in connect with a customer service associate. But bots are very, very BAU affairs in any sort of e-commerce company. Inventory management, very, very important. I mean, as you would know, so, I think there have been cases where some of the competitors advertised very heavily a particular product, but then they ran out of that product before even the sales started, right? I mean, there were so many pre-bookings and all of that. So that creates obviously a bad experience that you could not service your customer, right? Similarly, you may go over-aggressive in sourcing certain product, but nobody really wants it, right? So that could be another problem that you're looking at. Sorry, my power just went out, so allow me a moment. So that could be another problem that you're looking at. And you have to really figure out how we can preempt both of those things in terms of having the right mix of the inventory to really satisfy the customer's needs and wants, right? And then, omni-channel marketing boosting with ML, like, I mean, whether you are coming in on mobile or, on web, or you are coming in from some other media, right? It should be consistent experience and consistent team and consistent marketing that you see. Some of those things are also being driven by the machine learning, right? So now what I'm going to do is I will share, can I share the file, Shivam, over here? Would I have the control?
Yeah, you have.
Okay,
you can upload it on the chat.
Sorry?
You can upload it on the chat.
Okay, let me just share this file, people, before I forget. So, of course, I just ran through some of these things very, very quickly, but there's much more that you can glean through by reading this article. So I'm gonna share that file with you. So please download and take a look later on, right? So the next thing I'm gonna share with you is this video, which again is available for everyone. And again, this will give you a good sort of like, view of, what goes on in the entire machine learning space and what are some of the things that we use there, right? And the last one is the website for Amazon scientists, and this is again available for everyone. So you can take a look. Sorry, I didn't copy that thing. So this is there, right? So you can take it out for a spin and then get more comfortable. So I'm just gonna, play this video.
Amazon, he used to.
Can you hear the voice?
Research at Yahoo India before.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Hello, please. Yeah. So this slide is just a.
Okay, so this gives you a broad spectrum of activities that we look into the Amazon India, for example, right? So you can see with respect to that PDF document that I was talking about, for any of these areas, whether you're looking at the operations, the customers, the sellers, the catalog, images, speech, everywhere you'll see there's a heavy amount of machine learning that takes place, right? So let me just pick some very, very unique areas, for example. Operations, packaging is, PDF I've already shared, Chandrasekhar. You don't have it? It should be there. Not received? Okay, let me try one more time.
I'll download and share, Ratnakar. I'll download and share. You can continue.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So for example, packaging, right? So packaging seems like, what are you going to do in the machine learning with respect to the packaging? Any ideas, folks? Any guesses? What do you think machine learning has to do with packaging? So I'll tell you. Right. So what should be the right package? You may do an overly aggressive packaging, which is the box with all the bubble wrap and everything, right? And you could be wasting huge amount of money in doing that packaging. Or you could be having just a plastic sheet or just a sticker on the product, right? And that could be the opposite extreme, that you may have things which will be broken if you don't have the right protective things around it, right? So that's where this really comes in terms of understanding what that product is really, right? Is it a fragile product? Is it something which needs that amount of packaging? Because when you're looking at millions and millions of ASINs, right? Each unique product, you will not be knowing how to package it, right? So that's where we actually look into the product attributes and say, okay, this is what the packaging is right for that, right? Also, to your point, Shivangi, in terms of what should be the right box size, right? You would have all seen, sometimes you get a big box and the item is very small in there, right? Sometimes they do it because they don't have any options. Maybe the box is not there, but you have to also match the box with respect to the product dimension, right? So that's one area. I'm just picking up some very, very unique things which you can see from over here, right? Let's see. From customer's point of view, we will talk about one example, which is the address, which is very unique, right? So speech, this is something that we do a lot of, which is when the customer is talking in the natural language, whether Hindi or English or any of the regional languages in India, we do the automated transcription of those languages, right? So as I'm speaking, you'll see that we have the tools which can transcribe this with a certain level of accuracy, precision, and recall to really have that, overall high level of accuracy in that data. And then once you have the text, then you can do a variety of different NLP on top of that, right? Some of the things I mentioned over here, which is the named entity extraction. So what are the main things which the customer is talking about, right? Sentiment analysis, looking into the language that they're using, fraud pattern detection, a variety of different things that can be done, right? So this gives you sort of like, a broad view of, what are the different things which are happening. Demand forecasting is another one. Catalog, right? Duplicate product detection, right? So a lot of times you'll see that the same product is being sold as two different things. So how do we really know that this is exactly the identical thing and we have to take out one, right? And so on and so forth. Then again, many different things which happen there. Of course. ML, if you're not applying ML in any area, that means you're probably not set in a favorable way for the future. So any and every area that you're looking into, you have the ML possibility. Okay, so I think there are some challenges with the file. Shivam will share with you, don't worry. Right, so I'm just gonna move forward. Right. So you can see a lot of times people do not put the right address or the complete address, right? So they will say 28th floor, World Trade Center, Bangalore. Zip will be wrong, right? Or they will forgot the World Trade Center, but they will write Rajaji Nagar, right? Something of that nature. So we have the algorithms which auto-complete the address to really make sure that the address is, to the large extent accurate, and we can really leverage that, right? So many different things, and we talked about the packaging, polybag, bubble pack, many different types of packaging you can do. This is high cost, this is low cost, but we have to really figure out what is the right balance that we should be having, right? Substitute product we have talked about. So again, I'm not going to go through the entire video, just given the time crunch that we have. So I would rather leave it for the interaction people and give you time to go through the video later on. And you can always ping me offline and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, right? Yeah, so it basically has a variety of different things that you can go through that we can watch, and will give you a great understanding of how we are using some of the machine learning things over here, right? What are some of the challenges that we face? Of course, reliable data. In the entire model building process, what do you think is the most important step in the process, going from point A to point Z? What is the most important step in entire model building? Right, data cleaning, yeah, data. Exactly right. So that's basically having the right features, right? Do I have all the features to really do the right prediction for whatever we are looking at, right? So the feature engineering, data cleaning, making sure we have all the data, talking to all the systems, having a consistent view, removing all the data errors like the duplicate data, erroneous data, outliers. All of those things are the biggest challenge that we actually solve. And this is actually more pertinent for the NLP, for the natural language, right? Because when you are talking to a customer, even though the customer says, I would like to talk in Hindi, right? But they may easily switch to English at any point of time. When they get angry, they may switch to English, right? Or vice versa. So how do you then go and comprehend that? Because you have your model trained for doing, the transcription for this. So you have to be prepared for those sort of things, right? And there might be certain things that you have to weed out that cannot be used in any machine learning prediction. So they'll say, sir, my PAN number is this. Nobody asks their PAN number, right? But when, let's say, they're calling to Amazon Pay customer service, so, sir, my PAN number is this. I mean, we don't ask for those information. So we have to really make sure that we weed out some of those confidential proprietary things and all of that, and then do the machine learning from there on, right? So that's, good view of the video. And the last thing is, this is slightly more research oriented. So those of you who would like to know more about what are the research areas or the cutting edge thing that Amazon is working on, you'll find a very good view in terms of any of these drop downs that you are having. So you can go, for example, you can say, what are the things that Amazon is doing in computer vision, for example, right? And you will find some of the papers that the Amazon scientists are working on across the different sites throughout the world, and what are the problems they're trying to solve, how they're solving it. A lot of different things you'll find over there, right? So I'll just leave it there and turn it over to you for the Q&A. Anything that you would like me to address, I'll be more than happy to do that. And yeah, so I'm gonna look into some of your outstanding questions. So Shivam, would you like to bubble up the questions? I'm fine either way.
Yeah, we have questions on Q&A.
Okay.
So Ritu Rathore is asking, please do discuss future of small brand e-commerce stores independent of Amazon or Flipkart.
I think the future is bright. So like any of the niche player that you're looking at, whether you're in the fashion category or you're in the health category, right? The future is quite strong. It just basically is a function of execution, you carving out a niche, and then you being in a position to service that in a profitable way, right? Anything and everything can be done in e-commerce way, right? So, I mean, we kept on thinking initially when we say we, like the general experts, right, that such and such things cannot be sold online, right? I mean, if you go back like 5 years or 10 years from now, and if I told you that you're gonna buy a washing machine or refrigerator on e-commerce, right, on Amazon and Flipkart, I mean, you wouldn't have believed me at that point of time, right? So anything and everything can be done. Ganga Jal is there. I think the cow dung is being sold, right? I mean, anything and everything is being sold. So, yeah.
Parizad is interested to know the predictive index model more. I guess we discussed that, right, already?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably we'll take it offline because, that there could be many different dimensions to it as well.
Amar is asking, knowledge of language like R and Python necessary for a career in AI and ML?
Absolutely. In my view, I mean, there are two answers to it. I mean, so if you're just gonna build a model, right, there are many platforms, AutoML models, which will give you a very good working model. Amazon has something called as AutoGluon. Microsoft has Azure Stack, right? H2O has H2O, Python has AutoML, right? There are many different things which will just do the AutoML, right? But like I told you earlier that, I mean, unless you do a good job in data understanding, data cleaning, your models will not be that good. And data understanding, data cleaning comes in when you look into the data from different angles, right? When you massage the data long enough, when you picturize the data, when you visualize the data, when you apply different cuts, right? So that's why you really get a good understanding of data. And not just by playing with the data, you have to also talk to the domain experts as well to understand what exactly those variables are and how do I really make sense out of them. And that's where you get a good understanding. So I'll say if you want to really have a long career in the AI/ML field, knowing one language is important. And I'll say probably Python is the way to go forward, nothing against R. So I, started my career with SAS, then switched to R, then to Python, right? So I'm particularly more keen on Python.
So Nikhil is asking a question. Could you also talk a couple of minutes about SAS analytics?
SAS analytics meaning SAS as a language or software as a service?
Software as a service.
Yeah, so I think, there are a variety of different platforms like Tableau, for example, is one of them, right? And there are many other programs which are coming in for the model building as well, where you pay as the service as you go in terms of the actual usage, right? There are a lot of AWS tools like SageMaker, for example, right? Or even the S3 bucket or Elasticnet that we have, right? So all of those are, SAS in terms of the software as a service, and you don't necessarily need to invest any money in buying your own hardware. You can actually use them. And of course, there's like solutions in terms of not just hosting your data, but doing the number crunching as well and giving you the output from there as well. So yeah, that is also there. And they have a good amount of penetration in the companies as well. So we use something called as a QuickSight, which is Amazon internal visualization tool like a Tableau, right? That is also SAS.
All right, so Shobik is asking, how does Amazon integrates behavior and cognitive sciences with technology, especially analytics?
Behavior and cognitive. I'm not too sure, if I understand that question correctly, but the behavior is something which is implicit, right? The customer does not necessarily talk about that. So that you can really glean from in terms of how many times they are coming to, let's say, the your order page, right? So that would give you a sense of, whether there is a high level of anxiety in the customer about a particular order, right? So, that if somebody is coming in and checking on that product, where is it, right? So, there is a high level of anxiety or high level of anticipation and so on and so forth. So we try to get some of those signals in terms of the customer behavior on the mobile site or the website to really glean some of that behavior and then design the workflows accordingly.
So Rubina is asking, significance of data protection and security is high. How do you ensure that it is not compromised?
Yeah, so one thing that you will definitely sort of like, count on for a big company like Amazon, multinational company like Amazon is that, right? Because we follow what is the well accepted policies in the US or Europe for that matter, in terms of the customer data protection and taking all the necessary precautions in terms of the financial transactions and all of that, right? However, if you look into some of the smaller fintech companies in India, the policies from the RBI are not well defined. So, for example, they can still scrape through your SMSs, right? They can read your emails and stuff like that to really build a much more holistic profile of what is your income, how much you're getting from where, and all of that. So those are for the smaller fintech players and all of that, which are operating in India. But companies like Amazon, we don't do anything in terms of the customer data privacy breach and all of that, at least intentionally, right? I mean, there might be some breach here and there for any company, but Amazon-like companies are very, very careful about that angle.
Rinki is asking, can normal people like us implement machine learning in our business, or we need to have software development knowledge?
No, anybody can implement the machine learning. I mean, so it depends. I mean, you're building online model or you're building an offline model, right? So, and I'll explain you what the difference is. Online model is where the data is gonna be fed real time. The scoring has to be happening real time. When I say real time, that's like, maybe a microsecond gap in the entire scoring process, right? And the decision has to be available right there and then, right? So, for example, if you're talking about some sort of intervention strategy when customer is calling in and we need to give a recommendation to our CSA, customer service associate, that do this or say this, right? So that has to be real time. So when you're talking about the real time, or the credit risk scoring model, so I was working for a company called Cabbage, right? So they would make the decision available whether somebody is approved for the loan or not within like 7 minutes, right? So that also requires real-time scoring of the customer's information. So all of those will require you to have the SD background to deploy your model. And not only deploy your model, but have the model to read into the right data sources from the variety of different places, put it together, feed it into the scoring model, generate the output and feed it to the production system, right? So all of that will definitely be requiring SD background. Either you or somebody in the team should have it. However, if you're doing the offline scoring, so for example, you are gonna say that based on the data that I've collected in the last week, right? Or any sort of batch profiling or batch processing that you're doing, you don't need to have the software background. You can do the model building, recommendation generation, and the actionable everything offline, and that doesn't require the SD background.
Harsimran Singh is asking, being a project scheduler, ML-based scheduling could be very helpful to optimize project schedules for EPC projects, given how dynamic the projects are. Do we have any such scheduling softwares existing or under development?
I am not very aware of that. I think most of the ML is really still art, right? Art and science combined together. Otherwise, you can see the auto ML would have already taken over the world. So I think the scheduling part is, sort of like, we get to that point when we have a model that we feel comfortable in, right? But building that model where we have a good amount of trust is still human intensive exercise, right? So we have to really see what we are getting, whether this makes sense or not, what are the features, can I really make sense out of those features, right? And so on and so forth. So that is not necessarily 100% automated yet.
We have two questions very, very similar. Sanjay and Jaydev both are asking. There is a perception that ML AI-led automation will eat into a lot of jobs. What is your take? And Jaydev is asking, in future, will robots replace the human in the logistics?
Yeah. No, I get that question quite often. A lot of people have that fear that, machines are going to take over. So I think the short answer is no, it's not going to happen, right? And there will be areas which will be automated. So that is definitely going to happen. So there will be things that we used to do by hand, but now we don't need to do anymore, right? So that's going to be automated completely. So for example, how many of you are still doing, if I ask you to do 23 times 12, how many of you are doing 23 times 12 in a pen and paper environment? Very few, right? So you're just plugging it in your calculator or your cell phone and so on and so forth, right? So that will be automated. There are a variety of different things which will be automated. However, the complexity of the word continues to grow as well. And for handling higher complex situations, unknown situations where we don't have the label data, nothing can beat human intelligence, right? So, for example, even if you're looking at the self-driving car or the image recognition, right? They're all trained on millions and millions observations, and if you throw them in a brand new situation, in a completely different environment, everything is going to fall apart, right? So that's where the human intelligence really comes in. And the other big angle where this may not be sort of done is because of the whole emotional aspects, right? Even if I ask you to do the sentiment analysis on a tweet, you'll see a lot of times these sentiment analysis are not very accurate because they miss out the pun that is intended there, right? Or the humor that is intended there, or the emotions which are coming in there, right? So all of those things are not necessarily something that we can automate. So more likely than not, it's going to be the man and machine combined rather than machine taking over everything.
So Rajesh is asking, what is the role of publishers vis-a-vis independent influencers for Amazon programs like OSP articles and video content published on Amazon site along with products?
That is a little bit outside my direct area of control, so I can definitely check and let you know. But I think as long as you are the influencer and you have the subject matter expertise in a certain area, not just Amazon, but there are a variety of different platforms available where your thoughts and opinions will be definitely respected.
So Aditya is asking how analytics. Okay, it is framed very differently. How do analytics help in training chatbots to understand and answer millions of customer queries?
Right. Yeah. So the bots also are mostly the supervised learning bots, right? So we have trained them on the previous conversations. So when the customer is talking about this, what could be the other intents, for example, the customer may be having, right? Or when you see these sort of words and phrases coming in together, that is more likely a situation that we're looking at. But there are bots which are also unsupervised, but most of the bots are supervised. When I say supervised, that means they're all trained on the historical data, and they're all supposed to be doing a certain amount of things, right? So that's why, any bot will have an exit option for the customer. Otherwise, the customer will go completely crazy, right? So is your question about this, or do you mean this, and so on and so forth, and that loop never ends. So at some point of time, if you think the customer is not getting the answer that they really require, we have a way to sort of go and talk to the CSA as well, customer service associate, right? So, but yeah, the bots actually deflect a lot of contexts and get the customer resolution faster, because if you were to wait for a CSA, that would take up to a few minutes, right? Versus bots will immediately tell you what exactly we are looking at, as much as they can actually solve. So I think that is very, very important and viable strategy.
Shrees has a question. Can you please provide guidance on how to transition into AI and ML from other technology fields, especially for experienced people?
It depends on your experience. I think if you are anyone with less than 5 years of experience, you can make it much easily. If you have more years of experience, you have to really leverage what you're doing as of now. So for example, if you're already in Java, right, or if you're already doing something in .NET, right, or if you're doing full stack, whatever. I'm not an ST expert. I'm just saying, these are the sort of things, right? So you should try to figure out a way to leverage some of this experience and then build another layer on top of that, which is a machine learning layer, to go and successfully execute, based on your prior understanding. So that should not necessarily be a baggage for you or liability for you. That should be an asset, and you should figure out how to leverage that. I've seen a lot of people with significant years of experience making a transition within their own company, because they know so much about their company's They know the culture, they know the subject that they are working on, right? They have good relationships as well. They actually go through the IJPs and then they get the positions, right? However, I think the consistency and the persistence is what really will take you to that stage. Okay.
Prince is asking, how can ML be applied on monitoring lost buy box on Amazon?
Can you repeat the question again?
Princey Jan is asking, how can ML be applied on monitoring lost buy box on Amazon?
Lost by box.
Buy box. I don't know what that is.
I'm not too sure actually. Maybe you can just add more color into that question.
Anand is asking how digital marketers can leverage AI ML. Can you talk about some simple applications or ready-made softwares which could be of help?
For which one?
For digital marketers.
For digital marketers, okay. I am not aware of any tool right away for digital marketing, what could be available out there. So again, something that I can take away and then I can get back to you later on. I'm not necessarily into the digital marketing per se, right? So never interacted with those things, but something like clickstream data analysis, right? Or something like how can you feed the tweets and the Facebook and Insta posts and stuff like that in real time. All of those things will be there that you can analyze. Yeah.
I guess Princey added to that question. The one that she already answered, asked was, how can ML be applied on monitoring buy box on Amazon? Now she's adding it, there is a buy box button which gets dismissed or moves down the ranking for a particular vendor.
Okay, I will have to get back to you, Princey. I'm not too aware of that. Maybe there is certain ML thing there, but I'll just take a look and then let you know. Yeah, YFAs, a lot of YFAs coming in, so do let me know if we have missed out certain things. It's for attendance, okay. Okay, got it.
Not required, but that's fine. Sashi is asking, what are the top algorithms of ML? That would be the last question for the day.
Okay. Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat as well.
Yeah, Sashi is asking, what are top algorithms for ML?
It depends on the area, Sashi, that you're looking at, right? So there is no algorithm per se which will work all the time. So for example, if you're looking into the NLP, right, you are looking at a lot of algorithms which are related to the deep learning, for example. If you're looking at a recommendation engine, you will be looking at the collaborative filtering or LDA sort of approach that you're looking at there, right? If you're looking at the segmentation, we a lot of times will use something like a K-means or hierarchical clustering and so on and so forth, right? If you're looking at a banking industry and they're trying to build a model which are compliant with the legal and the government agencies in terms of the compliance and all of that, you'll be looking at logistic regression. So there's no one fixed algorithm that works all the time. But if your model interpretation is not a problem and you can build any model, you will generally see that a tree-based ensemble model will work the best. Something like an XGBoost or gradient boosting tree, or even a stacked model, which is basically models on top of models, or the models input feeding into another model. All of those things are there. You can go completely crazy with those sort of algorithms, but most of the times you would like to build a model which are interpretable. You can see what exactly is happening. So a decision tree or ensemble-based models are more heavy in the usage.
This brings us to the end of the session, Ratnakar. I know there are a lot of pending questions and a lot of pending chat over here. lot many questions over here. So I guess people can connect with you on LinkedIn to get some answers, or they can drop me an email with the question and I'll collate and reach out to you, and maybe we can do it another time and do the second session for the series.
Absolutely, yeah. So if there are some specific questions that we couldn't get to it, and you've gone through the videos and you have some follow-up questions, we'll be happy to carve out that time.
Thank you, Ratnakar. This was very informative session, and I'm sure each one of our attendees enjoyed and learned from your experience. Thank you for taking out time and sharing your experience and knowledge with us. I'd like to thank all our learners for joining the session. With this, we'd like to end this session. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you, Shivam.
Thanks
for the opportunity.